In Mark chapter 1, beginning in verse 32, we read, "That evening, at sundown, they brought to him all who were sick or oppressed by demons. And the whole city was gathered together at the door. And he healed many who were sick with various diseases and cast out many demons. And he would not permit the demons to speak because they knew him. And rising very early in the morning, while it was still dark, he departed and went out to a desolate place, and there he prayed. And Simon and those who were with him searched for him, and they found him and said to him, 'Everyone is looking for you.' And he said to them, 'Let us go on to the next towns, that I may preach there also, for that is why I came out.' And he went throughout all Galilee, preaching in their synagogues and casting out demons." Having just healed Simon's mother-in-law in his house, after having cast out a demon in a man there at the synagogue in Capernaum, Jesus had now attracted quite the crowd. People coming from all over to see him and be healed by him, to have their demons cast out. And as we see Jesus through the eyes of those closest to him, his witnesses, we see the great compassion with which he received him. We see the great power that he wielded to help these hurting people, to heal their illnesses, to free them from their bondage. We see how Jesus works long into the night, making sure that those before him felt God's love in the way that he had been made able. But appreciate something else. At some point, Jesus did rest. And before a new day started, he got up. He rose early, before the sun was even up. And he went off to a desolate place, somewhere where he could be alone, where he could have a little quiet, some solitude. And there he prayed. Having poured himself out, showing compassion and care on those around him, he set aside some time before the next day started to connect with God, to pray and to fill up. And notice how that prepared him for the day ahead, because when Simon and the others found him and let him know that already the crowds were starting to form with the next day of people wanting to be healed, Jesus says, no, we need to keep moving. You see, Jesus had clarity about what his purpose in life really was. And while he cared deeply about helping those around him in the way that God had uniquely made him able, he knew that healing those diseases, casting out those demons, that's what we might today think of as treating the symptoms. There's a true underlying issue that needed to get addressed, an underlying issue that he alone could address as he proclaimed the good news of God's reign, as he brought God's kingdom into everyday life, ultimately through how he gave his sinless life on the cross, would be buried, and rose again. So while Jesus cared a great deal for those around him and their needs, while he did so much to help alleviate that, he didn't get distracted by the urgent, good things that he could spend his time on. He kept his focus on the big picture, on what he needed to accomplish for God to be glorified. And as Jesus walked this earth each day, the way he was able to have that perspective, the way he was able to compassionately and tirelessly serve while still keeping the big picture in mind, knowing when to stop and recharge, was through prayer. He started each day praying. As we come to know that about Jesus, as we see the kind of self-giving love that he showed to people each day, but also how he prioritized, how he made good decisions, how he spent his days, if we are his followers, if we've been united with him in baptism and we're seeking to learn all that he commanded, We need to learn from this example and start our days like he did. Not scrolling through social media, not consuming worldly news, but praying, connecting with our Father, reprioritizing everything so that we're receiving from him what we need for that day, so that we have clarity about what it is he wants us to accomplish as the day ahead unfolds. If we start our days like Jesus did, then like Jesus did, as we move through them, we will recognize opportunities to show compassion and care to those that we encounter, but without losing sight of what ultimately matters most, without letting those good, urgent things that try to encroach on our days keep us from accomplishing what matters most to God and his glory. So follow Jesus. Learn from how he spent his days and see how knowing that brings life into yours.